Hey everybody, JC here. Today, briefly, I want to show you something that's pretty common knowledge among ARMA members and most all of my students. And that is that in defending blows that come on from high, and for this example, I'll use this training device here and this nice messer, I'm going to do what the masters tell me to do. And that is, I'm going to intercept, impede, and catch his cut, downward cut, vertical or diagonal, mit der Flat, as Joachim Meyer writes in 1570, with the flat. And he says to do this with the hanging point, which he describes specifically and explicitly as being your hang the weapon in front of your face, with your palm up and your point down diagonally, and it's aimed in such a way that when he cuts, that you're going to receive the blow on the flat of your strong. There's no manual that I'm aware of in the Renaissance or medieval era that says receive the blow on the edge, nor that ever says to use any place to defend against these blows other than the strong against the strong. They're never telling us middle to middle. They're never telling us anything against the weak. And they're not telling us strong against the middle. They're telling us to do it strong against strong. Why? Because it's this portion here which is traveling the slowest and the shortest distance, as opposed to here where all the power is, because it travels in the farthest distance with the most speed. So obviously the strongest part engages the slowest part. In Leckhoffner's Messer manual, he says the same thing. He says when he cuts, to take it on the flat of your strong, and then from here to wind the weapon into him with the point or with the edge or what have you. This is a little low for my purposes here, but it will suffice. Joachim Meyer also says in his Dusac section, specifically, receive the cut with the flat of your Dusac in the hanging position, so that from here you can then wind against him, or that you can move it against him, and whatever way you need to do what other kind of techniques that you want to do against him. Similarly, in the longsword section, when he talks about half-sworded, he specifically again says, when he cuts at you, do this with your half-sword in defense. And he says you've learned this because you've learned wrestling and grappling. And he says that when he cuts, you go up in the hanging guard and you receive his cut on the flat of your strong in the hanging position. So that way you can do this, or you can do this, or you could do this, or a dozen other cool moves. But he never says, hold it like this and receive it on the edge, nor any place other than the strong. Now, I don't care that in the cruder, simplistic, later forms of swordplay that are not the developed, sophisticated martial arts of the Renaissance, and I'm talking about 18th and 19th century fencing. I don't care that with sabers and cutlasses and spladroons, they're doing these crude, primitive blocks, which the masters in the Renaissance, such as Joachim Meyer, tell us specifically not to do. They warn over and over against parry. I'm going to repeat that. They warn over and over against blocking. And they say, Meyer says, don't do what the common fencers do, which is to parry by holding their weapon out and allowing it to be struck. And don't do what Master Lichtenauer warns us to do, which is to make the wide parries and the ungainly motions that the bad fencers use, which are not the art. So, learn to do the hanging position defense. And you're going to discover something very amazing. You're going to discover that, hey, you know, if I can do my hanging defense this way with my strong, if I can do it like this, I can also do it like this. Yeah. And like this. And you know what? If I can do it that way, then with my long sword, I end up doing it this way as well. And if I can do it like this, well, can I also do it this way when I'm cut here? So that I end up losing an arm. One moment. I don't like to leave this attached permanently because it prevents me from being able to maneuver at different angles. So I have to bear with that. Anyway, see? So if I'm cutting here and I'm defending with my flat here, it doesn't matter whether I'm doing it with a single hand weapon or a double hand weapon. I'm still essentially doing this. And it doesn't matter whether I'm doing it on either side. And you know what? It doesn't matter whether I'm doing it here or down here or over here. I'm still essentially obeying the same law and same rule about WithTheFlat. Which is why you don't find instructions to set aside, to ward off, to knock away by holding the weapon out there and allowing it to be struck, or to just letting him hit your edge with his edge. The swords are designed to receive blows here and be resilient. They're not designed to do that here. This is for delivering force. And when two edges clash together, they produce microfractures and horrendous gouging, and you will even find with sharp blades, when you're doing this, the edges will literally scallop out portions of other sharp edges. We're not even talking about nicks and gouges. We're talking about ripping and twisting pieces of the edge off. I have shown this, I have done this, but there's one basic truth about swords today, folks. Virtually no one ever goes around using a quality sharp blade to strike full force at the edge of another quality sharp blade. We don't do it. And if you do, you'll see how easily they're damaged if you purposely hack edges. So, don't be an edge basher, and don't use the cruder, later form of post-Renaissance fencing defense. Use the defense that their sources are teaching us to use. Offense is defense. Act mezzo tempo, indes. You're going to find it's going to really transform your skill. Give it a try.